Hello and welcome back to semester 2 of the Principles of Exercise Therapy. We are now in week 21. So hopefully you can remember everything from semester 1. If not, just go back and review the lectures and get yourself up to speed as we move forward into some progressive stuff. We're going to do the needs analysis of a patient. So we're going to analyze, design, develop and implement all that we have evaluated about that particular patient. So moving on to why are we here. So physiotherapy is concerned with the following: human anatomy and physiology, human movement and function, maximizing wellness and potential, minimizing disease and injury, and ultimately solving real world problems. That's why we're here. That's our mission statement. Okay, so our learning outcomes for today, we're going to explore what a patient needs analysis is. We're going to gain insight into the needs analysis and how it affects our exercise prescription. And we're going to apply the components of fitness, remember them, to a needs analysis. And then finally, we're going to explore clinical reasoning in exercise prescription. That's our clinical thinking. So the principles of exercise therapy, let me remind you, we've got adaptation, we've got specificity, we've got progression, regression, we've got overload, we've got reversibility, we've got time out. Then we've got behavioral change, individuality, lifestyle integration, law of diminishing returns, and your responsibility. Okay, so whole person consideration, or the holistic approach to rehabilitation. So within the individual's life, their daily life is going to be broken into work, or what they do for the majority of their day, their occupation, rest, which is their sleep, okay, and then obviously their play, their physical activity, their exercise. So work, rest and play. Then we've also got to think about their nutritional status. What are they eating? Their hydration status. What are they drinking? Is it just tea, coffee and fizzy pop? Okay, or is it water? Is it herbal tea? Is it good stuff like that? And also mental health. What's their mood like? If your patient isn't in a good mood, okay, you're not going to be able to get them to exercise as easily as we'd like, even though exercise will put them in a good mood, as it helps with serotonin, oxytocin and dopamine levels. Okay, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you remember back to psychology, human psychology was created by Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in the sense that we have these physiological needs, okay, the need to breathe, the need to eat, the need to drink, the need to sleep, the need to go to the toilet. These are physiological needs. And then after these physiological needs have been sated, then we next go to the level of safety. We've got to have protection from the elements. We've got to feel safe, okay? That's important, so that we don't just go out on the street and we think we're going to get mugged. We've got to have a feeling of safety and security in a house to protect us from the elements, or a home, or some sort of shelter. Then the next stage is love and belongingness. So belonging to a group. This is family, this is relationships, this is feeling part of a community. The next thing is about self-esteem, your own self-esteem and the way you value yourself by being good at a particular activity or activities. And then finally at the top is self-actualization, which is achieving your full potential in everything you do, optimizing wellness and minimizing disease and injury. So if we break this down, okay, you can see that we've got these basic needs, which are our two levels. Physiological and safety needs are very basic. Then we've got our psychological needs, the needs for esteem, need for love and belongingness, and then right at the top, self-fulfillment, okay, or self-actualization, creating and achieving your full potential. And this is really what our patients want, because this is what we want as individuals. So what's a needs analysis? It's the process of determining what qualities are required for the patient based on the individual, the situation or the task, and where they are on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. For example, if your patient really needs the toilet, a very base physiological need, okay, so they need the loo, okay, they're not going to be able to do the exercises on the next level and achieve their esteem needs as well, because they need the loo. Okay, so we've got to be considerate to that. So needs analysis will be divided into two effectively. So the needs of the individual and the needs of the task. So the individual, what's their health status like? How old are they? What's their impairment status? What's their level of independence? And the task, what's their meaningful task? Patients will always come to you like, I can't climb the stairs, I can't walk on uneven surfaces, I can't play football, I can't play rugby, I can't go running. Okay, I can't reach the top shelf to put food in. Okay, I can't reach down to unload the dishwasher. And then what are the demands of their situation? What's their environment? So we break it into two stages. The evaluation of the task, where we're going to do a movement analysis of what their body needs to do. Then we're going to do a physiological analysis based on the components of fitness, and then an injury analysis. So how is their body being impaired to stop them doing the stuff that they want to do? Then we're going to assess the person. What's their training status and experience? If you're dealing with an Olympic athlete, that's very different from dealing with a couch potato. What's their injury history? Is this a repetitive injury that they keep going into? So they're now a bit more scared of re-injury, particularly if they're an athlete. They might be scared of re-injuring. Okay, the chronic hamstring is the classic. And then the results from the performance or the pre-screen test. Okay, so sometimes we use an outcome measure for that. So individual influences in terms of the physical, we need to think about the metabolic pathway. Okay, is this just going to be something quick, like sitting to stand, or is this going to be walking 5 miles? Which is the metabolic pathway? What's their age? What's their gender? What's their nutrition and hydration status? What's their circadian biorhythms like? And what's their genetic potential? Okay, circadian biorhythms really important, because you might get someone that's more keen to exercise in the morning or more keen to exercise in the afternoon, depending on where their body biorhythm is. So the individual influences psychological, and this is the big one. We've got to make sure that their basic needs are met according to the hierarchy. So can they concentrate? If not, they might be hungry or thirsty. Do they need the loo? How's their breathing? Okay, if they're hyperventilating, they could be anxious about something. And do they feel safe? A lot of elderly people, when you stand them up, they just don't feel safe. Okay, because their vestibular system is being challenged. Okay, and they know that if they fall over, that's a bad thing. Then the psychological needs. How does your patient feel today? Okay, have you built rapport with that particular patient? Do they like you? Have you got things in common? And does the patient know what's expected of them? Expectation management, massively important, and you've got to try and motivate your patient and inspire them to do this particular activity by selling them the benefits of exercise. And then those self-fulfillment needs right at the top. Have the exercise goals been established? Yeah? Has the patient maximized their potential? Has the patient learned something new? Because we all like learning something new. And has the patient learned the skill of independence? So independence is ultimately our goal. We want people to do stuff themselves. And from the needs analysis, you're able to focus on 3 questions. What must I do for this patient? What should I do for this patient? And what could I do for this patient? Must, should, and could. Really helpful with your clinical reasoning. So in terms of a needs analysis, we've got to match the patient and the activity, so that will depend on their medical history, their age, gender, the amount of time you have available with them, also their impairment status and their goals. Okay, you might be working with a Paralympic athlete who has a significant impairment status, but they can perform at very high level. You might be working with an able-bodied person whose goal is simply just to climb the stairs. You've got to look at activities of daily living, what functional movement pattern is required, what equipment and resources do you have available, and the 4 P's of functional movement. We've also got to think about what are the major muscle groups that are involved. Is it upper limb, lower limb, right side, left side combination? Are there ground reaction forces involved? Okay, is it unilateral or bilateral activity? Is there some rotation? How long will the event last? And that will depend on which energy system is predominant. We've got to think about the speed of the movement of the task and try and negate any risk. So after the needs analysis, okay, you've then seen what the patient can do. We've got to think about the following. What exercises are we going to select that are going to be helpful to them? In what order? And how often? Okay, so this is an example of the stages of a needs analysis. Immediately, okay, imagine there's a football player, he's just turned, okay, done his ACL, he doesn't know that yet, as well, he collapses to the floor, okay, big fat swollen knee within seconds. We're going to need to police the injury, okay, which is protection from further injury, optimal load, ice, compression and elevation. It used to be known as priced, now police. Then pre-hospital, okay, so he will go to hospital initially, they scan it, yep, you've done an ACL injury, and what they do is they splint the leg until he's able to have an operation. Okay, so before he goes for that operation, he might have to do some prehabilitation, some basic range of movement stuff in combination with ice, taking down the swelling, and trying to keep the quads as strong as they can. After he's had the operation, he's going to need some rehabilitation, roughly 6 months, so it's a long period of time. Okay, but within about 3 months, he can start doing a graded return to work, depending on his energy levels, because obviously injury takes energy. And then after about 6 months, we're back to full duties, and all we've got to do is just maintain. And then probably about 6 to 9 months, we're able to return to the activity of football. So that's an example of the stages of a needs analysis. Obviously, the needs will change at each stage. So clinical reasoning is our thought process that guides our practice. And physiotherapists often don't realize they're thinking unless interviewers ask them to describe their thinking. It's not that physiotherapists don't think, it's just they don't think about their thinking. And that's a clever quote from Fleming in 1994. Okay, so we've divided clinical reasoning down into their component parts that help you make a judgment. So we've got to describe, observe, we've got to link to our knowledge base, we've got to come up with a hypothesis, we've got to implement this, and then we've got to evaluate it. So the description is what is the task, who's the individual, observe them, okay? Observe the patient doing the task, you're just having a go. And then you link that to your knowledge base. What are they struggling with? Okay? And then your hypothesis is, why are they struggling? And then you implement what exercise is going to help, and then you evaluate, did the exercise help? Okay? So sometimes when you implement an exercise, you know that it's going to take weeks and months to make a difference. Okay? Whereas if we're dealing with a motor component, you might get it better by the end of that session. So we've always got to think about the 4 P's of functional movement. What is the purpose of this meaningful task? What position do I need to be in? Standing, lying, sitting? Okay, what posture? What shape does my body need to be in where the joints are in alignment? And what functional pattern of movement? Squat, lunge, deadlift, push, pull, rotation. So we're going to give you the example of sit to stand. So the purpose of rising from a chair is for independent movement. You go from a sitting position to a standing position. Okay, so the posture you're going to need to lean forwards, get your nose over your toes, bend your knees, bend your ankles, and then as you lean forward and stand up, okay, you're going to drive through your heels, extend your knees into the standing position. And this is a squat pattern of movement. So we've broken down the 4 P's of functional movement into what we've got to do. So we've then got to look at which component of fitness needs improving. Is it range of movement? Is it strength? Is it power? Is it balance? Okay, is it just coordination? So if we break the fitness components down on the sit to stand movement, have they got sufficient lower limb strength, especially in the quads, glutes, hamstrings and calves? Have they got enough ankle dorsiflexion, knee flexion and hip range of movement to actually make the shape of standing up? Can they do it fast enough? Or do they fall back down again? Have they got that speed, strength, rate of force to help them do that? Is it a coordination issue? Okay, are they leaning too far back as they're trying to drive back? Okay, where is their foot placement? Where's their upper body placement? Okay, and have they got the balance to do that? The energy system we're using is the phosphate creatine system. So we've got to look at the biomechanical issues of things as well, trying to get their nose over their toes. So with our clinical reasoning, so we've got an elderly patient getting up from the chair. That's our description. What strategies does the patient use to assist them? Okay, are they slightly lopsided as well? Do they use a rocking motion? Can they stand up first time, second time, third time? And then we've got to think which components of fitness will help them complete this task if we train them. Then we come up with a theory, and we prioritize must, should, could, and then we implement our exercises and get the patient to practice these exercises. And then we're going to evaluate what's changed. Hopefully, they can sit to stand with ease. So this example we've got there, so elderly patient getting up from the chair, they're going to use a rocking method to initiate that momentum. They fail the first time, they adjust their position and manage to stand second time. So we're going to link that to our knowledge base. So the first attempt was too slow. Okay, we also noticed that they're lacking range of movement at the ankle and the hip, and they didn't get far enough forwards. Okay, they might not get far enough forwards because they're a bit scared of overbalancing. So we've got to work on a bit of accuracy. And we've also got to make sure that they lean forwards and drive through the heels at the same time, some coordination issues. So our hypothesis is that if we teach the patient the correct positioning, that should help them achieve the task because they did it second time. So we can implement, change the heel position by bringing them back. We're going to get them to lean forwards more, and we're going to get them to drive through their heels and create some power to give them the lift. We're going to repeat this process until they are competent and we're back to the skill of sitting to stand. So if we look at these sorts of things, you might see the fact that their flexibility is slightly down, as well as their power is slightly down, and we've just used a spider diagram to help with that. You can also use one of these, okay, where we're looking at mental capacity, strength, mobility, all that sort of stuff on a more advanced person. So the tests for the needs analysis as well. We're going to start using some outcome measures. So what would be the best method of training for this individual? Would it be doing Tabata squats from the chair? So they do 20 seconds as fast as they can, 10 seconds rest, repeat 8 times. Okay, probably not for an elderly patient, but maybe for a young patient. Okay, do we want to do a single leg maximum weight press? Okay, on the leg press machine? Are we looking at an isometric ski sit against the wall? Or more functionally, okay, a timed get up and go? Okay, and we could vary that for many sporting individuals. So it's back to our old friend physical literacy. So we're looking at active participation, the skills for living, the fitness and the movement requirements. Remember, fitness and movement are different skills. So at the end of this lecture, we've explored needs analysis. We've now got an insight into how needs analysis affects our exercise prescription. We can apply the components of fitness to needs analysis, and we're beginning to explore clinical reasoning in exercise prescription. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next podcast.